Welcome back to Speak Up Queen, the podcast where we empower, uplift, and celebrate women who have reclaimed their voices to inspire others. Today, I'm delighted to welcome our special guest, Aida. Aida is a spiritual teacher and transformational life and business mentor whose passion and purpose are deeply rooted in helping women uncover their own passion and purpose. Her expertise lies in empowering women just like you to break through limitations and unleash their fullest potential. Ida's work is all about guiding women on their journey of self-discovery, helping them step into their power and live life aligned with their true calling. Without further ado, let's welcome Aida to Speak Up Queen.
Thank you. What a beautiful intro. I feel so blessed, seen, and honored. So thank you, Marika, and thank you for holding the space in celebrating women to speak up.
Thank you. Aida, let's start with, what was the most challenging limiting belief you had to overcome, and how did breaking free from it help you reclaim your voice?
Wow, such an empowered question. And if I'm being honest, I want to go all the way back because it often stems from our childhood, right? And from what our caregivers, and for me, it was my parents, and the limiting belief that was the foundation is not being enough, not having a voice. Like, I was the youngest child of only four of us, but I had three older brothers in my family. And one would often think, oh, you would have been so protected, but actually I was quite tortured as the youngest. And so isolated. And the one thing that was fundamental that I needed to shift was not being enough, not having enough. And that could be in terms of love, money, prosperity, safety was a massive thing growing up as well. Was raised in Western Australia. And from there, it was like living in a small town. My mother was incredibly fearful. So safety was a massive thing that I needed to shift, and not having enough food on the table, not having enough like money to be able to purchase the things that was required, and having a real limiting belief around money and safety. So being raised in that regard, like having that overhead, and that was maintained for a number of years. And funnily enough, I also had a belief that I didn't think I'd live past 26 for a number of different reasons, raised in a very abusive, controlling household. So I thought I would be, transpired things would come to my demise before the age of 26. I was also raised in a cult, in a very strict religious cult, so to speak. And, we believed that I wouldn't be around by the age of 26. Now that I'm 50, that's something that took me years, if not decades, to break, because every year past 26, I had this foreboding feeling that any moment now I could come to my demise. So there were some fundamental beliefs that I needed to have shifted. And the first one was being unlovable, not being enough, and not having enough. And that was in terms of love, money, and self-worth. So they were the big factors. And when you really come down to it, it's all about self-worth, and redefining that and reestablishing that and resetting my nervous system, honoring my inner child as I kind of became more aware that that's a foundational thing. Like, what? I'm 50 now. Surely that's not a factor anymore. Surely at 30, like my 7-year-old self shouldn't be governing my decisions. But when you look back at how trauma really affects your life, your mindset, your heart set, your soul set, and having to rewire those foundational belief systems, that was a big path for me, and having to shift those foundational beliefs. And it does start with believing it is possible, like creating that fundamental shift. Because whilst I was raised with gifts, I am a generational psychic medium and healer. Both my lineages have that in their ancestral reigns, like knowing that was there. But then my parents both being really afraid of it, shutting me down. So from a very early age, I had no voice. And this is Speak Up Queen, right? To empower other women. It's like, how do we reestablish your voice, reestablish your sovereignty? How do you reclaim all of those things? And when I was, little, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have mobile phones. We're so blessed in this day and age now to have tremendous amounts of resources. And being raised in a small town, we had one communal library. that had very, basic books and encyclopedias, and what your main source of knowledge was from your primary caregivers, their belief systems, and from secular schooling. So, that was just compounded and reinforced that, there is a scarcity issue. There is not enough money in the world. And then you watch the news, it just continues to compound. So they were my massive ones that I needed to have shifted very early on. It was not being enough, not having enough, and money's a very hard resource to come by. And in order to have money, you had to be like bad or evil in order to gain it. So thankfully that was long been shifted, but they were foundational for me. Yeah.
That is so amazing. Because when I share my story that I left my 17-year-old inner child at the airport in South Africa before we moved to Australia, people is like, you can't leave your inner child. But that was for me a meaning from she needed to be in a safe space for just a while so that I could just go and figure out who am I without these limiting beliefs. I just wanted to be known. I just wanted to figure out who was I, because I was a people's pleaser. I was everything everyone or ever said to me. That was me. And I was like, that day at the airport, I was like, I'm going to leave you here. I'm 30 years old. We flew out on my 30th birthday. And I was like, it's time for you to just go and find out who you are. So it is like just amazing how we need to heal our inner child, because they are driving the bus. They are driving the bus in our decisions, whether we like it or not. They are still driving the bus. The next one, can you share when someone's words or actions make you feel small and how you found the strength to rise above it?
Beautiful. One of the very fundamental things that for me was, I used to love as a child, as you do, sing, dance, play the piano. And I remember singing around the house a lot when I was younger. My mother used to. She was a beautiful singer when she was in Spain. She loved to sing. So, being my mother's daughter, I would sing. And I remember one day, and I feel like I was about 4 years of age, and my father just shut me down and said, shush, I don't want to hear you anymore. And from that moment on, it affected such a way, because he was also a very controlling and abusive parent figure, that I knew that that was being reinforced by very strong behavior if I wasn't obedient, so to speak, if I didn't obey immediately. So it shut my voice down. And for a very long time, I completely lost my voice. I wasn't even able to speak. And then when it took time for me to be able to feel safe to even talk to my family or even at school and my friends, I then lost my capacity to sing. My voice broke, and for years at school choirs, I couldn't even sing anymore. It infected me so greatly that I completely lost my ability to, one, speak as a child, and then later on to even sing again, training to be able to even speak. And it affected me in such a way that I couldn't even counter and ask for or order things for food. I couldn't ask, let alone my friends. I was in that people-pleasing mode where I would be the quiet one in the corner, afraid to speak, afraid to be seen, afraid to talk. Can you order a cup of coffee? I'd be like, no, can somebody else do that for me, please? Do you want, I would wait to be asked, and I would just nod or shake my head and saying that's how, and I would be too afraid to say no, of course. So that was a very fundamental thing. And then having that come from such a strong parental figure, my father, then that made me even more trauma response in terms of masculine energy in my life. So then I was repeating cycles with my first ex-husband, who ended up being exactly the same. You say you'd never marry your father, right? You either completely love your father enough that you will absolutely want to marry and mirror that, or you completely don't. And then you end up marrying that energy because that's what you truly believe that you deserve and attract, because you haven't healed that part of you until you bring some conscious awareness to it. So that very first element for me was rediscovering my voice, hence the Speak Up Queen, right? How can I feel safe in my vulnerability, in just being able to ask for my basic needs to be met? And you do that by first asking of yourself. We always think it's asking for other people. You can make me happy. You make me happy. You give me this. You give me that. But once we're able to nurture ourselves, give to ourselves, honor ourselves, respect ourselves, feel safe within ourselves, we can't expect another to do that. But when we flip, we do that. We give our full power away to others. Then we reclaim it and we become quite forceful with it. And then we find that balance in between where I can safely ask. Now I'm obviously full in my sovereignty and in my femininity and in my power, that I can respectfully ask my needs to be met and not be afraid of hurting someone else or feeling like always respectful. But when we first reclaim our power, it's like, how can I ask for my needs to be met, even when I feel like I might be disappointing someone else? Because our needs are very different. So that took a number of years and quite a lot of deep inner work to be able to come to that stage where, one, I could speak well and eloquently and be able to ask for my needs to be met was another layer again. And then to then be able to communicate with the universe, source, God, spirit, to be able to have that beautiful communion, feel safe to do so, and then really complete with my community, loved ones, friends, family, and attract like-minded beings who you can have beautiful, open, vulnerable conversations with. And even if you don't agree, I have no problem with someone going to me, what about this? And then I'm like, oh no, maybe yes. I've got no problem with someone. If someone says no to me, I don't mind. Like, I actually think that's great. Yes, you've got your own mindset, your own self, right? But I know initially when we're people-pleasing energy, when we're in that fear state, like having the word no come at us, we take that so personally. But being able to shift that is so powerful and dynamic. It's so respectful for yourself and the other. It's so empowering for yourself and the other, the moment you learn to set beautiful boundaries and say no. So yeah, my father was probably that very first moment of him just shutting down. No, I'm giving him my power, right? I allowed him to shut down my voice. But when we are in that very early stages with our parental caregivers, parenting us, raising us, then of course they have such a massive impact on our lives. And consciously or unconsciously, we carry that for so long until we then go, hang on, I do have a voice. I do matter. I'm important just like you.
I just love it. The next one is actually gonna, let's go into it. So what safety resources or spaces or tools have most impacted your healing journey?
Yeah, thank you. The ability for myself to feel safe. So for a long time, I've just felt incredibly unsafe. I was insomniac for probably 35 years of my life because I didn't feel safe enough to sleep in my own home with my partner. So that was a massive safety issue that I had. I didn't feel safe to sleep. So the one resource, you've got to find that resource within you, that safety within you. And for me, it was also connection to something greater than me. And that to me was what I call spirit, source, the universe. So I was again raised with in a cult. So my assimilation with God was very fearful. And that's why I didn't believe I'd be older than 26, because of that connection. So once I moved through that, it's like I needed that connection to my highest level self and embodying that energy. So for me, it's my heart space. It's my solar plexus. So whenever I don't feel safe, I immediately just start to hold myself. Take a minute and take that breath, because we always say your head takes you one place, your heart takes you another. But when we have that heart and mind coherence, when we're able to bring that into, that energy of combined, your breath will be able to take you up, down, or collectively. So when we can control our breath, so it is a mindset to begin with, but we drop it into our heart. For me, my heart is my greatest resource. So I take a breath, and deepening that breath, and I take it all the way down to my roots. And I imagine roots all the way down into Mother Earth, and I anchor myself in. And then I also imagine trees. They feel safe no matter what is thrown at them, regardless of the weather, regardless of Mother Nature has such a way of being able to constantly rejuvenate She teaches us so much. So when I connect with that and I need to reground, I imagine myself as that tree. I'm just needing to pull back my energy, pull it back within me, take those deep breaths to calm my mind, calm my nervous system. And that's a primordial thing, because we're constantly living in fight or flight because of our upbringing. So we have fight, flight, or freeze. Mine was to freeze, like, and then close my eyes. And then if I can't see you, perhaps you can't see me. Like, or did I think I was an ostrich just dumping my head into the sand, right? But that was just a trauma response. So regulating my nervous system, coming back into my beautiful body, and connection to that source for me was realizing how safe I truly was when I set boundaries, how safe I truly am. And I don't mean that harsh wall, because I did live with a harsh wall for so long. Like, if anyone who wanted to come near me had to kind of climb that like big, think of a big castle with a moat, and there was like laser beams with sharks on them from that movie. Like, there was a massive gap between me and another. But that's what we initially think is safety, but in truly honesty, it's loneliness. Our safety as humans is social. We're social beings. When we connect with like-minded souls who are loving and compassionate, that's when we get to unfold who we truly are, and we get to find more of ourselves. So establishing that resource within you, not giving that power away to another. And for a long time, I ended up moving into martial arts, and I studied and taught and trained martial arts for 15 years. And now it's engrossed in me. Not only can I defend myself on a physical level, I know that I have energetic and physical boundaries on an emotional and energetic level. So you've got to work on all of those pillars, heart, mind, body, and spirit, to truly find that resource of safety. It'll be very different for you. It'll be very different for others. Some people, their resource is their mind, because they know that they can talk themselves down or up, which we often do. For me, it's very much in my heart space, connecting with my heart, and using my breath to bring myself back into my body, not getting into that heightened state of consciousness, but really bringing it back. Because when we look at the metaphysical side of things, is one thing. We know that we're always safe when we're connected to our soul, when we're connected to source and our spirit team. But physically, when we know that we're safe, it's like when we're physiologically, with our heart's racing and our breath is labored and our palms are sweaty, am I having an orgasm or am I scared? Our body, it's the same physiological response, but it's our mind that's telling us the difference, which is why that pain-pleasure threshold, it's why we continue to seek it, because it's very, very similar until our brain tells us the difference. So when we know, it's like taking a moment to go, am I actually in a state of danger, or is this my fear coming up? Because fear and danger is very different. Fear is false energy or emotions appearing real. And danger is someone's coming at me with a knife, or there's a tiger. You're from South Africa, right? There's a saber-toothed tiger coming at me. That's real danger. I'm standing on the edge of a cliff. That's real danger. Or fear is, I can't even climb the mountain in fear of, what happens if I fall off, or what happens if so when we reclaim our mind, reclaim our heart and our emotional body, and we find that comfort within us, that strength within, that resource that you spoke about. I use my breath to get me there. I also use my mind to help regulate my nervous system. And then it's like, am I facing fear right now, or am I actually facing danger? And that question's like, actually, it's just fear. Okay, cool. Is it real, or is it imagined? Oh, okay, it's imagined. And is there anything I can do about it right now? No. All right, well, then I can just release it. And I know that sounds super simplified, and it took me a few goes at it, rehearsal at it, repetition of it to get good at it. And now I can literally do it in a split second. It can take me just a few minutes or moments to regulate. But initially, sometimes it would take me days or hours to come out of that fear state. But that's a beautiful resource in being able to find your sovereignty, or find that resource within you. Super important too.
Yeah. I must say, your voice is like so calming me. So never ever stop speaking because I'm like sitting here, I'm like, oh, I just love it. I just really love your voice. And the way you share your story is just amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Deep honor and gratitude for you.
What's one powerful lesson you've learned about self-worth? And how do you carry it with you as you continue to grow and inspire others?
Whether we like it or not, everything begins and ends with our self-worth. And it's something that when we are in that people-pleasing state or in that trauma response state, which is what that is, whether we recognize it or not, in that victim state, which is everything's happening to me and I have no control over this, we give away our power so much. And being able to recall that, reclaim that, enables us to really speak our truth. And that is something that's so, so vital for our own sense and source of empowerment. For me, establishing my self-worth is being okay with asking for my needs to be met and just reestablishing how I enjoy life. What are the things that I truly love aside from what anyone else thinks? Because like you said, when you got on that plane and you left your little self behind, it's to come to a better life. It's to come to a better state. And sometimes we do that. We cause that separation, but we know we take ourselves with us. But it's being able to then find a resource of strength to re-guide that beautiful inner child, resource that sense of self-love, because self-worth, we don't like to think that our self-worth is our foundation for our money, what the people that we attract, our partners, our jobs, but it truly is, because our self-worth dictates what we allow, what we accept, and then what we attract. As the law of attraction says that we attract what we are, whether we like that or not. We're consciously manifesting, subconsciously and unconsciously, all of the time. And people say to me when they first learn that, like, no, I did not ask for those relationships and I did not. And I'm like, I'm saying you did on an unconscious level. And sometimes, yes, they can be fate or destiny, depending on what your belief system is about coming into this earth. We can talk about that another time. But our self-worth is when we're attracting, and when we know what we are worth, then we can start to appreciate. When we attract greater things, more love, more money, better opportunities, better relationships. And when we love and honor ourselves fully, self-worth at its completeness, its self-empowerment, its self-love, and not just self-care. Because there's a lot of self-care where people are actually causing themselves more harm and good, seeking perfection, thinking that's going to increase their self-worth. Buying more things, like, and then nothing wrong with them if you're coming from a state of consciousness, but jewelry, clothing, expensive items, the new car, the new partner is not going to bring you or raise up your self-worth. It comes from within. So no matter where you are or what you have, you only have this beautiful body, this beautiful mind, and the power that's within you. Establishing your self-worth on that base level, and then magnetizing to you what you truly desire, the relationships that you want, the money that you desire. And we talk about it in terms of money and relationships because they're such tangible things, but it comes from that intangible state of self. Like, I know from experience, like just how whenever my self-worth was developing from my ex-husband, who I left over 10 years ago, and being able to see the cycles and patterns of what I was attracting in terms of relationships from that, learning those patterns, healing those patterns, breaking those cycles. It's like, actually, that's a toxic cycle. It's why we keep attracting the same jobs, the same bosses, the same relationships, because that's what we believe that we're worth. Or we find comfort in that repetition because our brain likes safety. So it will repeat the constant cycle because it knows it's safe there, even when it's an incredibly unsafe environment. I spent 13 years in an incredibly abusive house. Like my marriage to my first husband was incredibly abusive, manipulative, narcissistic, all of the delicious things, all of the beautiful things that we learn from, that helps us grow and learn. But 13 years it took me to then go, this isn't worth it. Like, if something's got to change, it's got to be me. So I was trying all of the other things, but I needed to extract myself from that, learn and grow from those relationships, learn and grow from those patterns and cycles. And it starts from knowing that you are worth more, knowing that you deserve more, that you are enough to have more. So rather than pointing the finger and going, oh, they must have got that ill-gotten means, or they must have got that because then maybe there's something wrong with it, or that's for someone special and I'm not special. But you are, because beloved, I am goddess. And guess what? So is everyone else. And when we recognize that, when I'm queen, and so are you, and so is every single woman who is watching this, listening to this, feeling this, because we are all queens, we are all goddesses, and recognizing that and then living to that state and not accepting anything less. And that is where we go wrong. We accept less because we're failure to feel like that we won't get anything more. We feel that we don't deserve anything more, or we feel like this is the best. I know that I felt that with my ex-husband. This is as good as it gets. This is the mimicking the relationship that I saw with my parents, that I had with my father. Oh, it's exactly the same. Maybe this is life. It's not. So if you're having those questions, if you desire more, it means your soul is calling you to it, which means that there is more for us to have, to enjoy, to be. And we're not doing this from a keeping up with the Joneses either. We're not doing this because, oh, I want that handbag, or I want that car, or I want that, oh, their relationship, they look like they have the perfect relationship. Maybe it's not. So we're doubting because we have dispersions that we don't deserve that thing, because everything's a mirror to us. But when we recognize, actually, let me use that as a source of inspiration, that I too can have that amount of money, or that amazing relationship, or those beautiful community, or having attracted like-minded beings. Because I was broken, I was homeless, I was abused, I was in a cult. Like, I have survived and thrived from all of those things. I'm about to get married to the love of my life, to my divine counterpart. I have thrived in being able to support myself, doing my soul-given work. It is absolutely possible. We're just here to guide others by sharing our stories to show you that it is absolutely possible. So take this as inspiration. Take this as, I too can have that. Just simply got to learn the way, be shown the way, and allow yourself to be guided, and just believe, because that's the realm of potentiality. That's the realm of possibilities, that if that person can have it, it must mean that I can too. And again, not everything's alignment. I mean, I don't want Ferraris or Lamborghinis or jewelry. It's just not my thing. But other people go, yeah, and I'm super happy for you that you just got your new car. That's amazing. Go queen. That's awesome. Or go king. Like, that's awesome. But it doesn't mean that because they have something, I'm going to have. I can't. Nor does it mean that when I have something, that someone else doesn't. And that's a very big thing for women. We're afraid that when we're in our power, it means that someone else is missing out. Not true. Absolutely not true. And that was another thing that I had to rewire very strongly, because I believed if I had something, that means someone else was missing out. If I have something, it means I'm showing you the inspiration. I'll also teach you how to achieve the same things that you want for you, on your terms, on your levels, and your definitions of success and love and relationships and community. So that's what we truly want. Use it as inspiration. So the moment we point the finger, if you're pointing a finger anywhere, let it be back in and go, I can learn from this. I can be inspired by this, which also means if someone's behaving in a way that you don't like, then don't mimic that behavior, right? Learn from that as well. So it's vital and important both ways.
If you could tell your 17-year-old self one thing, what would it be and why?
Oh, okay. I've got so many things. One thing, this may sound a bit strange, but it's like believe in magic, but believe in you. Believe like I get so, wow, I didn't expect to get so emotional just saying that. But when you are talking to your 7-year-old self, it's like, oh my gosh, you are so, so worthy. You are so, so loved. You are so, so lovable. You are so loving. Please believe that. So if I can say one thing, thank
Ah,
you. Yeah, wow. Beautiful. You believe. Yeah, I believe you are so lovable. Yeah.
phew, it's,
Yeah.
that was impactful.
Powerful.
It is amazing. It is beautiful. It is beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. Showing up as your vulnerable you and just sharing from the heart. Like you said, you're grounded from the heart, sharing from what you feel and embrace all of these moments. If you want to cry and you feel that you have to, but sometimes it's not a sad cry. Like last night, I published my book yesterday, and I was like, I didn't really have time to celebrate. I really, when you're you forget about it. And I don't know if it was a blessing in the sky, but one of the speakers didn't show up. And I am like, if you don't show up, I'm gonna still record. And last night I did a thing that I never did before, and I was starting to speak to myself, and I was like sharing. I looked myself in the eyes, and I was just saying, you know that you have accomplished this. You're a co-author now. You're an author now. You are all of these things. Stop just for 5 seconds. And I was like, okay, 1, 2, 3. And I was sitting there looking at myself, and I just started to cry because that was a cry of not sadness, but of proudness, of something that I believed that I would do someday. And finally, it's someday. The Speak Up Queen thing. If I thought 5 years ago when I left myself at the airport, trying to figure out who I am without the limiting beliefs, without other people's opinion, I would have never guessed that I would be the one creating a safe space for other women. Um, so it's just amazing how you showed up and shared it boldly. I appreciate it, and I love you, and it's just amazing how we can just show up as our authentic self and be okay with just being unapologetically us.
Ah, thank you. And thank you for creating this safe space for us to shine and to show up. Because our authenticity is a superpower. We're reclaiming and remembering those parts of ourselves that we once felt were, too shy. Or what happens if I'm not accepted? What happens if I don't get a sense of belonging? What happens if I have to fit in? So I've got to portray this image or facade. But that's not who you truly are. And the more authentic and vulnerable that we can be and show other women that you can be a strong alpha woman, but do so in your femininity, allow yourself to shine as your beautiful self, applaud yourself, take the time out to go, wow, look at all that I have accomplished that I never believed once would be possible. And allow yourself that moment, because we're so used to forcing and pushing and grinding. And, that's the masculine energy. But the feminine, she knows that she's worthy of all of these things, and all of these things will flow to her, and she's honored and safe. And I see you, I feel you, I honor you, I applaud you. So thank you, beautiful, for holding this beautiful container, for enabling us to shine, and for every woman that you connect with through this platform and beyond. May they attract to you, and may they awaken and remember who they truly are by us being us, by you being you. That is your superpower.
Well, how do you define thriving today, and what mindset shifts or practices helped you embrace that definition?
Beautiful. For me, success is a very personal thing. Like, my definition of thriving is going to be very different to yours, very different to others. I don't have children. I have a beautiful home. I my hierarchy of values, my very top one is spirituality. My connection to source is my number one. And when I know my hierarchy of values, I live by them, and every intention and every action and everything I do is aligned with those values. And it is honesty, integrity, connection, spirituality, trust, safety. They're values that I hold dear and hold true. So when I have those values and I use them as my intention to be my guiding light, then it's easy for me to find practices that align with that. So it is about every morning, I give gratitude, I give thanks for another glorious day. I take that time in connection. So yes, I do meditate. And then I was teaching earlier, and she's like, how long do you do that for? And I'm like, oh, some days it's 20 minutes and some days it's a couple of hours. And each time will be different with what I'm needing, what my body and soul is requiring from me in that moment. But for me, it's the mindset practices was believing that I was possible, believing that it was important. And we as humans create time for what we value. And we don't value time this day and age because we're constantly trying for more and doing more. And it's such an illusion. Things are such an illusion. And we're either seeking tangible things or we're seeking intangible things. For me, my definition of thriving and success is finding peace, finding calmness, finding wealth and prosperity, because that is also important. My health is at the top of my hierarchy as well, because the more health the more I'm able, the more energetic I am, the more alive I am, the more able to share with others and be more of who I am myself. So my health, and of course, wealth is intertwined with that, because then I can, invest in really good food, and I can invest in having a safe home, and I can invest, and it's an investment. I'm not spending money, I'm investing. There's a very small little shift that we can start to speak into, that every time you're about to pay for something, it's like, this is an investment in my life, in my health, in my wellness. And this is going to enable me to thrive one way or another. And I'm choosing how I'm investing. So is this going to serve me? I like ice cream. Occasionally I'm going to invest in some ice cream because it gives me pleasure. So it's okay, but I'm doing it consciously. Whatever goes in my heart, my mind, my body, I do so consciously now. And it does take time to rewire patterns, because self-sabotage was huge for me originally. It's one thing that was there for a very long time. And sometimes it rears up in different ways, because, we think, oh, we've covered that one. I don't have that self-sabotage anymore. And then it pops up in a different realm. Like, oh, I've healed the sabotage in relationships. Oh, but it's popping up in my money now, or it's popping up in my career now. So then you'll find other avenues, and then going, it's okay. Having that little sense of deep love and compassion for yourself, but then choosing. We all have the power of choice to break those cycles. So mindset is quite a big thing to shift. And whether you do or whether you don't, it's always up to you. It's a choice. Doing something is a choice, and not doing something is also a choice. And when we take back our power and go, I'm choosing to, or I'm choosing not to, either way, it's up to me. And it all begins and ends with me. It all begins and ends with you. So yes, in relationships, we may compromise a little bit because we've got a family dynamic. We've got to consider others. But when we release the people pleasing or the sabotage or the giving all of our power away, asking for your needs to be met, being supportive of yourself, it's really important. Again, it honors them, it honors you, empowers them, empowers you. So thriving for me is doing my life's purpose, being connected spiritually, and being able to thrive and having all the money and wealth and prosperity that I require so that I can live comfortably, that I can have incredible experiences. I just spent 3 months traveling overseas. We were able to do that with my beautiful partner. We actually went to Bali for 10 days for me to celebrate my 50th in July, and then ended up being gone for over 2 months, because that's just the way the universe took us. So we surrendered to that. So that's, for me, being able to do that at the drop of a hat. That's prosperity. That's thriving. That's abundance. And whenever I'm requiring any more, I connect to my team, and then it flows to me because I'm able to connect with that level. And then I know the resources that I can pull in to utilize it, to attract it, to also contribute to society. How am I contributing? How am I showing up? This to me is thriving. Like, I love sharing this stuff so I can help empower other women just like you. So that's me thriving and using those resources that I have, which is connection, my body, my soul. As if I'm on a stranded, deserted island, all I have is this resource. This is your greatest source of resource. Learning to use this, your heart, your mind, and your body. What more does one need? The rest is just stuff. And yes, it's comfortable having a beautiful home, and there's nothing wrong with that. We just find your success, your level of thriving, what that means for you. Because if you look around and go, this is it. This is my baseline. This is my minimum. I'm not accepting anything less from this moving forward. And when you know that and you live to that standard, and then you evolve and grow and expand and open to possibilities and opportunities, then you will attract that to you, right? That's the pleasure stage. That's the thriving stage. But we're so used to surviving because we're following social media, and when we're scrolling other things and people are going, these beautiful lifestyles they're living, you're like, oh, I don't have that. And I'm in scarcity and I'm in lack. Oh, I don't have that. I can't do that. I can't. And then we sit in fear mode. So there's two ways: either dispose of it completely because it's just not good for you, or use it as a source of inspiration. And that gratitude and gratefulness and appreciation for all that you have now, that truly is thriving for me. I'm thriving in this state because this is just phenomenal that I get to live my purpose, get to connect with like-minded beings. I get to have a beautiful, loving relationship, get to honor my body, my heart, my mind, my soul, my spirit, connection to source, God, universe. That's me thriving. And if your definition of thriving includes a certain amount of money in the bank, then let it be so. And you have spoken it and created it into physical existence. But getting clear on what thriving and success is for you is paramount. And that's where a lot of people go, I can't seem to manifest, or I can't seem to do this thing, or I keep getting stuck. It's because you're not clear on what your definition of success or thriving is. And let this, your current reality, just be a baseline, but having full appreciation for this state of being, knowing that it can only get better. Actually, we watched this show last night. I can't even remember what it was, my partner and I, and we rarely watch TV, but last night we're like, oh, let's just zone out and put something on. And there's a guy that was saying, everything just works out for me. And he was driving everyone else crazy. And yet he's like off and he does this game and he's like, yeah, I won because everything just works out for me. And I'm like, oh, that's another level that I'm taking that on board, because I always believe that something this or something better, or it can only get better than this, but everything is always working out for me. That's my next level, right? And when we adopt that and believe it to be so, watch just the magic happen. Watch the reality be so, because you have that deep belief system of it. So I'll stay tuned and let you know how that goes, that everything's always working out for me. That's my new key.
Really? Whoa.
Fun.
Last question. What made you decide to be featured on Speak Up Queen? And how does it feel knowing that there's a safe space for women to share their stories and inspire others?
Thank you, beautiful. That to inspire other women to reclaim their sovereignty, to remember that they are queen, that they too can use this as a source of inspiration, that remember who they truly are. The opportunity to come and speak with you and connect with you and share this is such a powerful message for other women. I wish I had this resource growing up. It wasn't available. Like I said, we didn't have the internet to connect with other amazing women, to be able to listen to their stories and see how they thrive, to come from trauma to triumph, or for whatever that they've navigated through, because not everyone will have the same story. There'll be different stories connecting to different people. And that's what we love. And that's what we need. We need more like-minded people, but we don't want to just sit in our pain. We don't want to just sit in the trauma. it's not thriving. Being able to come here and share our stories in an uplifting way, and being able to share how we can move and how we navigated that, and hopefully that helps someone. They go, oh, I can use my breath to maybe try and regulate my nervous system. I'm going to try that technique. Or, okay, maybe some more mindset or some more affirmations that are positive and here and now. I'm going to try those declarations to the universe that I am open, ready, and available for all of the good and all of the love and all of the opportunities available to me now. So yes, so that's why. So thank you for providing a platform for more like-minded women to come together, to share our stories, and hopefully give inspiration for other women who need to hear that, to know that we are not alone, that there's a community ready, waiting, and available across the globe. Yeah, sometimes we're hiding in our, hiding in our basements or hiding under the covers in our bedroom thinking, am I alone in this? No, my love, no, queen, you are not. There are more queens out there ready and willing to support you on your journey. Use this as inspiration. Use this as a yes, it's for me too, because everything is always working out for me. And why not? Why not? So thank you for holding this platform to attract beautiful queens to you. And may they use this to thrive in their life. So thank you.
Well, Aida, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I am like calm. I'm ready to go to bed and sleep. I've got my meditation hour in. It's just like you're talking. It's the calm voice of yours. It's like, and just to think, when you told your story that you have been shut down, and now speaking your truth and just showing up and just calming other people, because let's face it, when you grow up in an abusive home, there's no calm. There's always being on a watch of what's going to happen next. Is he in a good mood? Is he in a bad mood? You don't even know, that unpredictable. And now having a safe space and sharing your story and being calm and calming other people around you, because we are kilos away, thousands of kilos away, but still I could feel that energy through this screen. But it's not actually the screen, it's the light, it's the universe that's attracting energy everywhere. So yeah, just thank you so much for calming me today, because I think I needed it today. So thank you so much. And I hope you know your worth and you're making a huge difference, especially mine. It really changed. I am gonna listen this over and over. I think I'm gonna put it on tonight before I go to sleep, because that might be my meditation for tonight, because it was just so calming, and I learned a few things. There is a few things that I can definitely work on, because that's the thing, we are never too old, or our egos must stay in their lane, because I just want to learn, I just want to grow, and I want to thrive. So thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, beautiful soul.